Alright, today I wanted to make a video and catch you up with what I've been working on. And I emailed the seller about the record on Discogs that's been gone for 12 days. He didn't ship it until like 13 days ago. I know it's a weekend, it's Easter weekend, so maybe he's not responding. When I hit message, I don't know, it went to a general message or whatever through Discogs and not like a message about said record. So I don't know. Maybe he didn't see it, or maybe he just thought, what's this going on here? I don't know. Maybe he's back on some other work trip. No clue what's going on there, but we shall see. But he never gave me a tracking number, so that's kind of frustrating. So I don't know. We'll see. And then, so I said, well, you know what, I'll give Discogs one more shot. So I bought another record. I don't know if I still have it on the screen here. I wanted to show you something that I found here. Let's see if I can find it here. Well, I'm looking up numerous things. I was looking up Amanda Tapping from Stargate. I was looking at MacGyver Panini. Did you know that Panini made MacGyver stickers? But the only sellers I can find are in France. One seller had a MacGyver sticker that sold for $40, one bid plus $7 shipping. So somebody's probably going to get that grade and have like a PSA 1 of 1 or something ridiculous there. There was a complete album that sold for $102.54, but they're stuck in there more than likely. And again, the MacGyver stickers that I found so far are just generic shots. You know, it's just some background shot with like some actors and maybe MacGyver off in like from far corner. So any kind of major big I learned that from John Jabs from The Past is Alive. He just mentioned MacGyver in the passing. He said he wanted a MacGyver set. Everybody does. Speaking of MacGyver and Amanda Tapping here, I picked this up. Let's go back to the original screen here. So this is a picture I found at the bins. I found a Stargate SG-1 folder, and my friend just nerded out on it. He said, oh, I gotta have that. Are you gonna keep that? I said, well, it's all beat up. Do you still want it? He said, yes, I do. So, but then he left, and then I found this in another bin of books here. I'm sorry for the glare, it's in a top loader here. None of these people sign unless it's through convention, so I can't get those. There probably was one with Richard Dean Anderson on it. I would have loved to have that one, but no such luck. But that's the thing about the bins. The books come out and they get all separated from other books and other books and other books. And another person, he's not really a friend, but he's an acquaintance, and he basically missed out on some other books that he was grabbing because they came out in the next rotation. I felt really bad because they were kind of hard to find rare books that I was not looking for, books in Latin, but it was just like, wow, this is just unfortunate. I can't call him, tell him to get back to the store, you know, that he missed something. Oh yeah, this image here on the screen here, years ago I bought a lot of slides, and I was able to scan this one somehow, and it's a Notre Dame cheerleader, and I just thought it was kind of funny to find this in my stuff here, so I just use it as the wallpaper for the moment here. And just like I said, it came in a lot of slides or something like that, so I just said, you know what, scan it. But anyway, the other things I was working on here is that yeah, the Discogs was a pain, so I said, well, let's give Discogs another shot here. I have Discogs open here. But what's interesting here, let's just scoot back a couple records here, nothing important here I was looking up here. I'll just go back to anyone here. Any doesn't matter anywhere. One of the records I was looking at, I was checking to see if there was a seller on eBay. And because I couldn't find any information for it on YouTube, so I was like, well, shoot, I can't listen to this, but it's only $2, I'll give it a shot. But I wanted to see if eBay had a better image of the photograph, and the exact same stock image that was used in Discogs was used for this person's eBay listing. I was like, what in the world? You know, and more or less the same, you know, and it says cover, mint condition, or VG Plus or whatever. But the seller did not, in my case, did not show a picture of that. I was buying it for another record. The thing with Discogs you have to realize is that sometimes the shipping is kind of expensive. But if you really want to make the shipping work, one guy says $7.50 for shipping, okay? And that seems a lot for one record. But if you do your combine and figure this all out, he will say 6 records, $7.50, and if you want more, then it's 25 cents more after that or something like that. So you might be, a maximum of $10 into shipping for whatever you choose to buy from him, and that might, put you into the good there. But unfortunately, I cannot find much in the way of records from that particular person that I want. So sometimes I have to take lesser quality or music that I'm on the fence about. But again, for the price, this particular seller did $1 afterwards. So one record was only $2 and the other one was $3 and the initial one was $5, plus $5 for shipping. So it cost me $15 for three records. And so I think that was more or less okay. After buying that 12-inch of George Harrison over the previous weekend for Record Store Day, now that's flying off the shelves on eBay. Sadly, I've already opened it and I don't know how to sell on eBay because I've never learned how to do that. That'd be something I'd like to learn, but can't teach an old dog new tricks, or can't teach a dog old tricks. So I probably never learned that because but I've opened it and listened to it, so it basically cut the value in half. But what's interesting, like I said, it's not quite double what I paid for it, but because it's Beatles / George Harrison, the collectors are out and forced to grab that. And I can't remember if there was 3,000 total. Really don't know. But it was a 12-inch that was like almost $30 for a 12-inch. It was like crazy, So I figure 3 12-inches for $15 is actually pretty good. Now they're used, mind you. I was just looking up Shooting Star Deepest Blue, and there's different versions of Deepest Blue did Shooting Star, and I'm looking at different versions of that one. That's been in my Discogs list, one of the earlier ones in my Discogs list. This is my oldest Discogs list, and I can't find it. Basically, what happened also this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and I had a lot of events going on. So it put me, when I made videos, they were kind of rushed because I was tired or had to get somewhere or get ready for something. So if I made Dustin the Blake's video, I did the best that I can. Hopefully he saw that, but anyway, so there's that, but also on eBay was just frustrating me to no end. So essentially what I did was I went to a seller I bought from before in Italy on eBay and purchased 10 items. Now, when you purchase something on eBay, it's very scary because it's like, oh my gosh, $44. I didn't spend no $44, I spent $17 total. But these cards, you will not even believe what they cost. In the United States, if you could find them, they were between $4 and $10 a card. Italy, they were only $1.14. So I was happy to pay the eventually $6 shipping. So my shipping doubled. From the original $3.50 estimate, and then doubled to like 6 or 7. So that's the chance you take with U.S. or foreign sellers. I really like the fact that Discogs has it all calculated for you, and you can choose whether to proceed or not proceed. But eBay does not have it calculated for you until you have basically committed to the items. Dear seller, I am buying these items. I don't know what the shipping is going to be, but please, be fair and honest with it. And, several people have said that sellers never got back to them and never gave them, because some sellers make you pay everything. It's because of eBay's quirks. They make you pay everything. And somebody said they were out an extra $20 or something because the seller never gave them a refund. And that's happened to me a couple times, and then I got sellers giving me only partial refunds or crazy refunds. It just really did not work that much into my favor very often. Other times they just said, oh, it's all the same price, so there was no additional, because sometimes it was just only 1 or 2 or 3 other cards. But if you're buying 10 $3.49 or 10 dollar cards, and then $3.49 times 10, that's like 30 odd bucks there. Just like, whoa, I'm paying that crazy amount of shipping. And then for me to resell these cards, if I was even going to, I swear I could put them in my value box and nobody would even look at them twice. They might say, hey, I got some soccer cards here, how about a quarter a piece? And I would say, a quarter a piece, how about $5 a piece? And they were like, nah, I'm good. I said, well, did you realize? And this happened, exact same thing happened at one of the last swap meets I was at. I brought some records there. Artist name Polika, I think that's how you pronounce it. Polika or Polika. I looked that up. I think it's had since a reissue or some other kind of thing that's been done. And it came out in 2012 or something, I think like that. One of their songs has got 1 million views on YouTube, and that's about a $40 LP. And then people were, my friend's kid was treating it like dirt, it was practically mint. And then other people were like, nah, I'm good. And nobody said, I don't know what this is. But it was Discogging for $40. Little did I know that I was trying to get a whopping $5. I said, well, I'm asking 10, but I'm willing to go 5. Because I said it's a virtually brand new record and I put it in a plastic slip. So and that's the thing. It doesn't matter how much it was selling for on Discogs. Nobody even had any earthly clue what they were freaking looking at. And I said, okay, try going to a record store and getting a relatively new release from the 2000s on for under $10. You can't. It's not possible. It isn't possible. There is no earthly clue. I mean, there's always an anomaly to the equation, but it's just like, and the same thing with all the records. One of my friend that had the table with me, he basically said, oh, let me look this one up here. So it's going for a little bit, and said you should hang on to that. And then there was a couple other ones he got that were kind of interesting. He said, yeah, they're Discogging for a little bit, so I'm going to take a chance on those. And I said, well, here, just have them all for $10, and I gave him a heck of a deal. He might be able to make $30 or $40, or he might break even. It's just up to him, but he felt it good at $10, for 3 or 4 LPs that I gave him. And he was super happy to have those. But other people, it didn't matter how low I offered it, they just weren't willing to take a chance on something they didn't know what it was. And I do that all the time. Again, you see collections of binders and sort of thing for all of that. And I don't know, it's just been kind of quite the weekend here. I had Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So I had 3 church events in a row, all relatively late. They're all nighttime, and one of them went from 8. I got there at just after 8 o'clock, and it went to 12, and I didn't get home till like 12:30 because of the event we had afterwards. And we had candles, and one batch of candles melted all over the place and onto the carpet and onto the pews, and then the other batch of candles didn't melt one single drop no matter how much you tried. And that was just an amazing mess for us to clean up, because I'm technically an usher, so I helped out with the closing up and the cleaning up process. So that's just how my weekend went, and I slept in till 8:30 until I couldn't. I mean, my throat is feeling kind of yucky right now, so hopefully I'm not getting ill. Other things I wanted to share here. I went through my set of Jaws 2, and I'm missing something like 5 cards, and I can't remember if there was 11 stickers, but 10 stickers. So even as small as I'm missing, it would be just cheaper to buy the set. That's why somebody abandoned it. They looked at it and said, oh, it's cheaper to buy the set. In fact, years ago I could get the set for like a couple bucks, and the sticker set was like $1 or something, so it would have been a whopping $3 into it. And these cards are actually in better condition than the ones I used to have. I may have just actually chucked my cards because, again, I threw away a lot of cards that didn't make monetary sense to finish off the set there. Because I know that Jaws 2 is floating in and out of my binder. Same thing with the Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That was floating in and out of my binders. And that was just, and then the Close Encounters got finished up for a few dollars. A little more than I wanted to spend, but I was happy to get that done, and that went into my binder. So usually when I have a set build that I completed, that'll go into my binder. Not all of them I don't have room for binders. Another thing I wanted to mention is, I mentioned John Jabs earlier, with the MacGyver. I think I mentioned that. Essentially what it is that he was doing this Donruss that he'd never seen in his entire lifetime. I've seen them years and years and years ago. I might have even had one. He got stuck with a whole bunch of a bunch of people got stuck with Knight Rider and Sergeant Pepper's. These Donruss, that go to the Halloween packs or whatever. And the one thing that nobody has even mentioned on those packs there is that they're all searched. Because somebody said they found like 82 Donruss golf, and some people might have found some baseball ones there. But all of those have been searched because the backs of the wax wrappers, you can actually shine a a light and or look at it, and you can see, like the Sergeant Pepper ones, you could actually see the last card there, and if you know what you're looking at, you know that it's not a baseball one, you can dump them. And the Knight Rider ones, he actually did pretty good on those because they sell for a little bit per card, but he was getting nearly the identical packs. So that was Donruss's way of getting, even with people who didn't originally buy their sets. The Donruss, Sergeant Pepper's, I call it the Sergeant Poopers because it still doesn't sell to this very day. I think I was something ridiculous into like $3 to $5 for a complete set, and I basically almost got rid of it several times because I don't really care for that movie. But it was heavily promoted every time they got a chance to throw it on probably KPTV Channel 12 or something like that, or whatever, UPN or whatever they had back in the day. No idea. I think it was probably, UHF back then, whatever channel that was. But, it just kept on showing, that sort of thing. I was like, the commercial was enticing, but the movie didn't do anything for me. Because even back then, I was like, who are the Bee Gees? Who are this guy? Who's, Billy Preston? I had no idea. Just because you were born in the 70s didn't know, all these disco artists or jazz people and rock stars. Peter Frampton? I knew the Peter Frampton. I just knew he always came alive, at every thrift store that everyone, Frampton comes alive. And it's like, oh my gosh, now that's even selling for a few dollars. Like, this is craziness. Crazy times, things that used to sell for nothing, because people don't know the history of these items. They don't know how many Framptons, and Bee Gees albums were ever printed. They don't know how many Fleetwood Mac albums were printed. They don't know how the whole Donruss thing basically fell apart because they made a lot of commercial success movies or commercial flops. Just because Knight Rider was a hit didn't mean that people bought all the cards. MacGyver was a hit, and the cards would have been a crazy hit. It's kind of like the Goonies. The Goonies were a hit, and the cards were a hit. That sort of thing. I just don't have a lot else to talk about because, again, nothing comes in. So I have one record order, I have one Discogs order that's lost, I have another order from I don't know, whatever else, and then I have the eBay one, and then I have a COMC that just does not feel like giving me my cards. So you can understand why the videos just really haven't been as frequent as they used to be. My throat is kind of giving out here. It's just really grossly parched, so I think I'm going to have some Sprite. Hope everybody had a good Easter weekend, if they ever did anything with Easter eggs, and thank you for watching.